Every physical movement of cargo across the Mexican border is preceded by a highly synchronized sequence of digital and legal transmissions. To navigate this system, we must deconstruct the specific juridical, theoretical, and operative framework that governs modern customs processing. This requires analyzing the strict hierarchy of administrative procedures that dictate how goods are formally cleared for entry or exit. We will examine the core of the Ley Aduanera, the regulatory bodies that enforce it, the operational manuals that execute it, and the high-stakes friction points of the clearance process. In this ecosystem, procedural exactitude dictates fiscal survival. A single missing parameter on a digital document triggers immediate and severe legal consequences. The authority does not rely on the subjective judgment of local administrators. They follow the Manual de Operación Aduanera, or MOA, a strict technical operative sequence that eliminates discretionary interpretation. The legal authority for this manual is grounded in Article 144 of the Ley Aduanera, which grants the state the power to regulate the formal clearance of goods. Article 35 defines the Despacho Aduanera as the specific ecosystem of digital acts and formalities required for goods to legally cross into or out of national territory. Today, this system runs on paperless technologies like DOTA and PIDA, utilizing radio frequency identification to transmit encrypted shipment data to the authority. But before those scanners ever read a tag, the fiscal basis must be established. Customs valuation requires specific statutory adjustments that go far beyond the price on an invoice. To determine the tax basis for imports, authorities calculate the base gravable by taking the customs value and adding specific statutory costs. These are the incrementables, including freight, insurance, and packing costs. An error here instantly alerts the semáforo fiscal. The MOA and the Despacho are built on mathematical rigor. Against a fully automated audit system, that precision is the importer's primary defense against fiscal liability. That liability is defined by a strict legal hierarchy, led by the Ley Aduanera. This serves as the macro structure, establishing the definitive what of Mexican customs law. Title 8 of the law provides the framework for infractions and sanctions. This section contains the punitive measures that back the entire legal structure. The execution of these penalties falls to the Servicio de Administración Tributaria and the National Customs Agency, who actively monitor compliance. The Ley Aduanera requires parallel regulations to function. The RLA and the General Rules of Foreign Trade provide the essential how, dictating the specific operational conditions the law leaves open. This creates a system of parallel compliance. The Ley Aduanera remains inert without these accompanying layers of specialized legislation. For example, the LIGI determines the exact numerical tariff codes and NICO classifications required to calculate duties for every specific type of merchandise. Simultaneously, the foreign trade law enforces non-tariff regulations, including mandatory official Mexican standards that must be verified at the point of entry. Violating any single node in this legal stack collapses the entire clearance process, shifting the legal burden of proof directly onto the importer. The state maintains this uncompromising structure because the customs ecosystem functions as a primary engine for revenue generation. This chart shows total tax collection across major logistical nodes. The revenue processed at these ports forms a vital component of the federal budget. Nuevo Laredo maintains a clear statistical lead, processing 15.8% of the total volume for the nation. This dominance is reflected in the physical scale of the border infrastructure, where thousands of commercial vehicles cross through automated selection modules daily. Breaking down the composition of this revenue reveals that traditional import duties are actually a secondary factor. Instead, the value-added tax accounts for a massive 72.6% of collections. Because nearly all imports are subject to IVA, it dwarfs specific processing fees. Mexican customs functions as a highly efficient tax collection mechanism integrated directly into the border control protocol. Real-world case law illustrates how these theories apply to operational friction. In Case 1, an importer misclassifies finished cell phone cases as generic polycarbonate parts. This error triggers Articles 150 and 151 of the Ley Aduanera, initiating a PAMA, an administrative procedure in customs matters. Technical data from the tax authority shows that thousands of these enforcement actions occur annually, reflecting a highly active and systemic audit environment. The immediate consequence of a PAMA is the physical embargo of the merchandise. The cargo is seized by the authority to guarantee omitted taxes and ensure compliance with non-tariff regulations. Importers can also utilize mechanisms for correction. In Case 2, an importer identifies an undervaluation error post-clearance. Under Article 89, they can execute an R1 rectification, voluntarily paying the difference before the SAT initiates a formal audit. Case 3 demonstrates a strategic use of treaty rules. When TMAC certifications are missing at the border, the importer pays the general tariff to clear the goods immediately. They then have 1 year to present the certificate retroactively and claim a full refund. While the system is built on rigid enforcement, it contains precise legal safety valves like the R1 for those who identify and correct errors proactively. Other friction points are dictated by time. In Case 4, an importer faces a cash flow crisis, leaving their cleared goods sitting in a bonded warehouse because they cannot pay the final fees. This results in uncleared cargo remaining in port facilities, creating a physical and logistical backlog. To resolve this, Article 29 of the Ley Aduanera imposes a 2-month limit. If merchandise remains in deposit beyond this window without being cleared, property rights legally revert to the federal government. Time is equally critical in transit. In Case 5, a truck on a T1 internal transit regime is given exactly 4 days to move a container between customs offices. If it deviates from the route and misses the deadline, the transit is considered incomplete. The legal escalation is immediate. Guaranteed taxes become instantly exigible by the SAT, and the failure to arrive is legally presumed to be an act of smuggling. Under the Ley Aduanera, time is a rigid legal variable. Exceeding a deadline converts a logistical delay into a presumptive act of smuggling. The rigidity of this framework is a deliberate design choice, intended to ensure the stability of national tax collection. Surviving this ecosystem requires absolute fluency in its core terminology. You must master the despacho, adhere to the MOA, avoid a PAMA, and manage every transmission through the ViewSim. Success relies on knowing how to navigate del semáforo fiscal and utilizing the R1 rectification when errors are discovered. The visible infrastructure of checkpoints serves as the physical interface for a far more complex legal and algorithmic matrix. El comercio exterior es el motor, la legislación su riel.